Welcome everybody. My name is NATACHA CIEZKOWSKI and my desire today is to take you into an Enneagram experience based on neuro-linguistic programming. If you don't know what that is, I will tell a little bit more about that later today. But the thing is, I will talk about a little bit about theory, because I feel like you can use that to understand a little bit more about what we're doing today. And still the most important part for me, and I hope for you as well, is really experiencing how visualization and language can be a strong tool to grow and develop as a person. So that's my wish for today. Well, you all probably remember the first time you got to know your Enneagram type, and well, the reactions can come in many forms and shapes. Some of you might have, I don't know, I have this one coachee, the first thing she told me, I'm a monster. And some people are like, yeah, or I don't know, some things I like, some things I don't. And most of all, what is certain that all of you probably got the same feeling that after a while there are some things you want to change. You know, yeah, maybe there are bigger things, maybe there are smaller things, and still something needs to be changed. That's just a feeling you have, right? And even if you are consciously aware that you want to change something, that is not necessarily an easy thing to do. You know that, we all know that. And so what happens actually is that there's some form of resistance, and within all of us that's very different. Some people brush it away and say, yeah, you know, don't have time right now, but next week I'll read my report and do whatever it takes and stuff. Or you might get anxious, or maybe you might get worried or angry, or many forms possible, and that all are forms of resistance. And that is really normal, because actually what our subconscious wants to do is keep our core strategy intact. We don't want to change. We don't like change as humans. And so it's really normal that there is some resistance to change, and that is because there is a positive intention behind our strategies, right? So we want to keep the strategies right. And as long as you are not conscious about how this works and how things are happening on specific items you want to change, if something is blocked on a subconscious level, there's no change possible. There's too much resistance and you keep stuck. No change possible. And what actually happens is that you are kept in a trance. We keep on doing the same things over and over again for a good reason. And so the question is, how can we kind of seduce our subconscious into changing? Not everything at the same time, but step by step, making some changes. So, and this is really about reassuring our subconscious. Because like I said, everything is there for a really good reason, an intelligent reason. So don't mess up with that. You need to, be really respectful with that. So that's what I'd like to explore with you guys today. So I have my method in coaching to work on this, and it seems to work out just fine. And that's why I kind of thought to put it more in a process so I can share it with other people, and maybe it's also for you a useful tool to practice for clients, but also for yourself. Before we go there, just a really quick something about myself. So I'm a professional certified coach, and I have two big passions: Enneagram and NLP, neuro-linguistic programming. And what I do is actually combine the two of those. And I'm developing real practical tools to use in a coaching practice or to use yourself to make these shifts and to really move as quick as possible, because that's different, the pace is different for everybody, as quick as possible into change, into integration. So next year I plan to launch my book on this, and it will be really practical, like a toolbox more, not too theoretical, but still some stuff to get some hooks to know where this comes from. What else? I'm a proud member of the Integrative Mind faculty, and my three core values are strength, connection, and uniqueness, and they are both my force and my weakness. Some stuff to work on. My type is social 4, and my tri-type is 514. And I hope I can kind of lower down my 5, and that's why I have my cards to stick to what I really wanted to tell you, to reduce the theoretical time, because I really want to do the exercises with you. Okay, so what's next? You probably all know this visual if you did the level 1, and well, actually, if we manage to quiet our minds, if we manage to put down our stories and not identify too strongly with things, our minds get some rest. And that is a really great state of mind to be in life and to be here today in that way. And the reason I'm telling you this is because you probably will, consciously or not, encounter some resistances. And if that happens, and it can be like I said, in many forms, just welcome them. Be curious, okay, I'm feeling some resistance now. Annoyment, irritation, or whatever, anxiousness, just welcome it. And it can be there because nothing is good or bad. Everything is just information and can be of help to you to understand better where you're at. Also, if you can be here in a grounded way, that means that you're really present. So I invite you to observe yourself. Are you really here today? Maybe you're already tired, you already had a long day. And try to be as present as possible. Because also that will help you in the exercises we will do later on to really make the most out of it. And if you're still being a little troubled there, make sure you're sitting right in your chair, you really feel your legs on your chair, your back against the back of your chair, feel your breathing, and all that helps to be grounded. So do whatever it takes, drink some water, yes, do whatever it takes to be here as much as possible. And then the third thing is just be. Try to just be with as least judgment possible for yourself and for others. Be in connection with yourself and with others. Also, that is really helpful to get the most out of this session. And I also put a slide in here for myself, because that is a constant challenge for myself as well. To be present, to breathe, to be grounded, to get off the mind chatter, and to be really connected to all of you. Because I really believe that if we can be connected and be trusting and loving, then the energy in this room will be much better and much more not only energetic but also trusting and loving, just to relax in the moment. Because you will feel maybe that there's some challenges in the questions you will get, in the reflections you will get. Not to scare you, but just be aware that all that helps to be here, to be caring for yourself, and to be mindful. Alright, so there are, to my opinion, 4 keys to unlock the subconscious mind. And the first of all of those 4 is consciousness. Most of the things we experience in life happen on an unconscious level. That is simply because our brain cannot handle all the loads of information we're getting every second of the day. Our brains would just explode, right? So that's why, for instance, if you're used to driving a car, you're not constantly thinking, now I'm steering the wheel, now I'm braking, now I'm minding the color of the traffic light or something. You're used to driving a car, and you can do other stuff at the same time. You can use your conscious mind, for instance, to make some intelligent reflections, or less intelligent reflections, of course, but actually a lot of stuff happens on an unconscious level, which is good. And both the unconscious and the conscious stuff is actually driven by our type-specific strategies. And as long as you are not aware of that, and of course I know you all are because you're here at this conference, but if we're not aware of every single aspect of our type-specific strategies yet, because that takes a lifetime to discover, right? So there's always more stuff to discover. And as long as you're not aware of that, these strategies will keep you in a trance, and you will behave in patterns. You will repeat the same patterns over and over again. So if you want to break patterns which are not useful for you, you need to do something. And the first step is consciousness. Really simple. And you know, even if you get your IQ9 reports, consciousness about stuff, about your own type, that is not enough. That's just the first step. And to me, there's 3 more steps needed to kind of massage your subconscious into a willingness to change. There's the validation of our strategies. Acknowledge that they're there for a good reason, even if there's also behavior, for instance, coming out from them, which is not serving you. But validating that there's a positive intention behind them, that is a really important step. Also, accepting that there will be resistance, that there is resistance. Our subconscious doesn't want to change. And then the third step is mind training. And I use 3 different tools. You will experience that yourself today to do the mind training. And if you do these steps, then you really increase the chance that your whole system is really ready to make big shifts, to make a change of behavior. And we will go through all those 4 steps really quickly to get a little bit more of a feeling what they mean. Okay, so like I said, if you know that your Enneagram type is a strategy which is steering you, it also means that it's keeping you in a trance, and it's a series of evidences, stuff which is really logic to you, but the question is that really logic? Is that really the case? And for instance, we are stuck in a box of perceptions and habits. We make interpretations according to fixed patterns, always the same interpretations. And also, we are really predictable in the way we respond to impulses. So we get a stimulus and you get the same response over and over again. That happens when you're not conscious of what's happening in your system, right? And the thing is, that is not per se a bad thing, because it can work out for you, right? And still, very often, those strategies bring you the exact opposite of what you really want, of what you really need. So that's the paradox. And actually, as long as you are not aware of some kind of cause-effect relationship that is happening, you remain unconscious. For instance, if you feel like you really want to change things for the better and change a situation into an ideal situation, then you tend to criticize people, for instance. And that is kind of a logical rationale, right? That's logical thinking. If you want to make things perfect, then change stuff and make people change stuff, right? The thing is that what happens also is that if you keep criticizing people, that might influence your relationships. And so as long as you are not aware of a cause-effect relationship, for instance, let's say, what does it bring you? What is the positive intention of criticizing people? Or it might be that you feel superior. Nice, that's a nice feeling. And feeling superior can give you a reason of being. And that reason of being is creating the perfect ideal world. So that's a cycle going on. And so there is no direct connection in our brain to, not consciously, to the small criticisms and that really bigger thing. So there's something bigger at stake. So it's really, really logical that your whole operating system doesn't want to change. Why would it? Because the strategy itself is really clever, right? And once you're getting slowly aware of this cause-effect relationship, you can bring it to your prefrontal cortex and really make intelligent reflections on it. And you can actually be aware that you can keep the strategy and keep the advantages of the strategy, but not so much the downsides. And now your whole operating system is interested. Your whole subconscious, your driving type behavior is interested. Interesting, right? Keeping the good stuff and getting rid of the bad stuff, or stuff not really serving me. And now there's a bigger willingness to change. Okay. And then you're ready to see new options, to test new options, to really see if, what you can do to keep the strategy without the downsides. Now, very important part in this is that this is it's a step-by-step process. And it's not possible to digest all the information about your type at the same time. You know that. You can only read so much about your type, and then you're like, and it doesn't come in anymore. It's too much. And you can go this step-by-step process in a judgmental way, or in a curious way. And the judgmental way, we call it the fixed mindset, is really shutting your brain down. You cannot see options there. You're really into your judging yourself, judging the way you behave, judging everything that is going on. And it's interesting to observe yourself, because we tend to do that, right? Even if you are looking at yourself in a more positive way, even you still get these little judgments about yourself. And that's not a bad thing. I'm not judging you for that, because I do that as well. But be aware that which parts of your personal development journey still have some judgment, and you will actually get yourself stuck and make it harder for yourself to develop. So therefore, it's really, really important to keep this curiosity and to keep an open mind and to be really, there to collect little bits and pieces of information that will help you to develop as a person. And so, that is why we want to validate the strategies. And it's really, this validation is really about reassuring your subconscious that you are keeping the good stuff and you are really keeping it, in the sense, not judging it, not throwing it away, not changing it. It will still remain the same. You will still be using it as a driving force. And the reason why that is so important, really simply on a brain level, as soon as you get in this judging mode, your amygdala, that's a little fellow in your brain, which is your internal police agent, is really always on high alert. And we humans, we don't like change. And as soon as it senses change, it's danger, and it's like on high alert. And right now, because you don't know what is going to happen next, you don't know who I am, you don't know about the exercises, your amygdala is like on alert. If you would just be listening, fine, but you already know you're going to do some exercises, and your little amygdala is already on high alert, checking out, what is she doing, what is she talking about, what are we going to change? I don't want to change. So be observant of that. And actually validating that you are really aware that you don't want to change your strategies. You really want to keep them, to get the best out of them. That increases your willingness to change, and that really opens new pathways to new behavior. And you know that your strategies are really deep programations. So it's not enough to just be willing to change or to have one strategy. Your brain really needs at least five proofs that this new thing will really work for you. For everything you want to change, you need 5 evidences, and you will constantly be checking for evidence that the old way of doing is much better, because that's something you know, and you tend to go back to that. That's why it's hard to change behavior. And so the validation, keeping what is good, is really also about seducing your subconscious to be ready and willing to take the first step to change. And another element in this validation aspect, and this is really NLP related, this is something I constantly use in my coaching practice, is actually, there's 2 concepts. First one is the safe storage of lessons learned, and the other one is ecology. For instance, this is really about literally telling your subconscious that you are keeping all the lessons you have learned from the strategies you have. And as soon, this is already in my framing as a coach. And actually, as soon as I hear that somebody has some judgment on something he or she is doing or has read in the report, I really take time to validate that. And I mean by that to really make them think in an active way about all the positive intentions behind, for instance, a certain behavior. And I really make them make a list. And then I tell them, we could go on for days with this, because there's so many good things behind this behavior which is not serving you today. So it's really logic that you're doing it. It's really intelligent. And yes, there are some consequences of this behavior which are not serving you anymore, and that's why you're here. And for instance, this is an example from not so long ago. I had this senior manager who was up for a promotion, and she wanted coaching because she said, well, I might not get my promotion because I already for like 15 years I'm getting this feedback that I'm so quiet in meetings, that I'm not showing true leadership, and so I don't know what to do right now, because this is not me. I'm not like the person who's going to be loud in meetings and everything. And so actually, when we did this reflection about, okay, what is really good about being so quiet in this meeting? What is behind that? Why are you doing that? Well, she said, when I'm in this meeting, I don't want to be too pushy. Why don't you want to be too pushy? Because that's arrogant. Okay, that's a good reason not to be loud in a meeting, not to voice your opinion. What comes out from that? What do you get out of this? A positive thing. And she really had to think, because in her mind there is nothing positive about being quiet in the meeting, because she could lose her promotion, right? And after a while she said, well, you know, I'm a good listener, and I get to hear all the opinions, and I can really deeply listen to what people have to say. And great, I said, because that is something I have to learn. I tend to be so passionate about my ideas that I am too out there and too loud and too voiced. So that's something I can learn from you. And to really validate that and to make it something that they can really be proud of, that is a good start. Because nothing is good or bad, right? Everything has a meaning and everything has an effect. And you might not like that effect, but that's not per se a bad thing. About the other thing, the ecology, actually our body and mind are a really clever ecological system. So we want to keep the balance. For instance, let's say that you want to get more personal time, and you can set some really good affirmations, and you're really sure you want to take some personal time. You might not take that after all, because you might be afraid that your husband or your child might suffer from that. So you might not put that in practice, right? And also there, if you can get aware of your fear there you can really change some limiting beliefs there, and to find some empowering beliefs to really make that work for you anyway. as long, for instance, if we would do the exercise, and I will, in every exercise we will do, I will ask you the question, and you might be aware or not of the ecology, which is meaning, are you or yourself going to be harmed in any way by changing this behavior? That might really block you. And even in the exercises you will experience, if you say like, yeah, maybe, I don't know, my boss or my whoever will not be glad that I changed this behavior, then still give yourself the permission to just explore, right? To just like get the feeling of it, and you don't have to take action already or make the decisions, but give yourself permission, because our actions are really starting with our beliefs. So being aware of your beliefs is really important. In the exercises, I will. So in my framing, I use more explanation for this storage of lessons learned and the ecology. And the exercises, I will do this really short, because you heard it once now, and I will just use short ways to make you remember it and do the reflection really quick, because your mind is really quick to do that. It only needs quick commands to go into action. And then the last thing in this validation is a part about being grateful. If we humans, if we get positive confirmation, if we get validation, we get some air. It's like, it's really doing something in our brain. Our brain needs small little successes to produce serotonin and dopamine, and then we can really use this for the road ahead. And there's been some research on this, for instance, with Dr. Emmons from the University of California, and he found out that people who write down, who journal daily about how they are grateful in their lives, well, they tend to have a more positive attitude towards life. They're really more aware of the positive things already happening in their life. They are more patient with other people. They are more understanding about other people's behavior. They are more resilient when things get tough and stuff like that. So all good things, right? So we really need this hope for the road ahead. So we really need this validation of our type, or everything connected to our type, to really fuel us for the road ahead. That's really important. Get away from the judgment and step into the hope. So that's why I want to invite you to work quickly with the people next to you, and to tell each other one thing which makes you really proud about your type. All right. That feels good, right? Yes, it feels good, of course. So, and I think that's really important, and I really pay attention to that fact that when people leave my coaching practice, there's this hope for anything. But yeah, that's a really great energy to start from. Now, the next thing is about accepting resistance. So, like I said, for us, change is really a scary thing. And this resistance, actually, I see it as a good thing. Because when you feel a little bit resistance, it means simply that you care. If you wouldn't feel anything, not the slightest kind of something, when you're about in this change process with your Enneagram type, then I'm always a little bit worried, because you need this creative tension to really get yourself going. It's a really great impetus for change. And it is really something which fuels your involvement in the trajectory as well. And you can see this resistance also very well in the body language. You can see it in the eyes, you can see it in the breathing, you can see it in the whole body. And I really address that and use it to as a good force, as a driving force, to really get people passionate about even a little change, and even if it scares them. So observe yourself in the exercises we're about to do, what is happening in your body. Now, and how do we deal with resistance? And that actually it's a really simple concept. As soon as you get some insights, as soon as you get some understanding about what is going on with your type, you can reasonably make a reflection. Well, it's perfectly normal that I feel this way. Of course I do. If I know that this is all a really intelligent strategy, of course I'm scared to change. That is really normal. And what happens as soon as you tell yourself that, the little amygdala can rest. It can be at ease, and it can become a little bit more curious and willing to at least observe and at least consider a change, right? And that is important, because if you do not accept the resistance, you sabotage yourself. And sabotaging means this fixed mindset, and you cannot change. So just tell yourself, that's normal that I'm afraid, really normal, and get into the rest. Now, just as a quick overview for you guys, so up till now we did 3 steps: the consciousness of the strategies, which is really about collecting the insights, being curious about your type, not judging, being conscious about what happens, validating the strategies, meaning the positive intentions, validating all the lessons that you have learned during your life behind the strategy, really important, and also the ecology. Will I or somebody else be harmed if I change my ways? The accepting resistance, we had that. It's about normalizing, perfectly normal that we're afraid of change. It's actually a good thing, because it creates some creative tension, and it's an impetus for change. Now we're going to the 4th step, training on plastic mind. I will share with you 3 ways to do that, and then you're ready when you leave this room to make a change. Alright, about training our plastic mind. What does that mean actually? Actually, that our brain is not a fixed thing. It's plastic. You can always make new neurological connections, and that's great news, because you can always learn new stuff and always adapt and get more. Change, however, requires energy. If you don't have energy, you don't have the resilience needed to change. And also you need patience, because it's a step-by-step process. You cannot rush it. If you rush it, your whole system gets into this closed down state. It's too fast. You need the time to do so. The good news also is that we can train our mind for both. And that's why the mindset to do this is really important. 3 tools, like I said: the possibility mindset, visualization of the road ahead, and neuro-linguistic programming for growth. First of all, the possibility mindset. Unless we are flexible, we get stuck. And I'm aware that this is a quite strange sentence. And it is strange because it came to me one day. I think about 6 months ago. I went to this training in Spain, and I woke up in the morning, and this was my first thought. Unless we are flexible, we get stuck. And I was like, what does that even mean? And I immediately wanted to switch it because it's a negative formulative sentence, and it was hard for me to understand. So I made of it, being flexible makes us grow. Okay. And this tells something about the way I am wired as a person. The first sentence is a sentence we call in NLP away from. We all have a preference away from or towards something. And check with yourself which of those is more appealing to you. Unless we are flexible, we get stuck. So you want to get away of the being stuck, or are you somebody who is more attracted to the growth, being flexible and the growth? So that's neither of them is better than. It's really important to have both. So if you know your preference, it's always interesting to look at the other side as well, to get both sides. That broadens your perception. Now, a fixed mindset and negative thinking are not the same. Like, possibility mindset and positive thinking are not the same. You might, for instance, say, well, I'm the biggest moron and I desperately need to change. Or you might say, I'm an awesome person and I don't need a thing to change a thing about myself. And both of those are examples of a fixed mindset. No change. And because of the fixed mindset keeps you stuck in your own situation, right? And well, as soon as you can acknowledge, well, okay, I can see that there's good stuff about my strategies, and yet they do not always serve me, and it would be interesting, and I'm curious to kind of discover what else I could choose, what else it could bring me to change my viewpoints. That is possibility mindset. You open your mind. And growth is actually deliberately stepping out of the old and going, exploring the new. And a really good way, a really simple way actually, to do so is by questioning. By asking real questions. For instance, what is really important to me? Or how could I look at this in a different way? Or by asking possibility questions. And a possibility question is a question starting with, how can I do something? The fact that you say, how can I, already assumes that there's a solution, right? Your prefrontal cortex is interested. Said, oh, great, a problem to solve. Yes, let me think, let me do it. So you make it happy. And a third way of questioning is just question everything. Question every action, feeling, or thought you have. Is this action really beneficial for me? What is the meaning behind this feeling? Is this thought really true? For instance, these are all examples of good questions. And like I said, our mind loves questions. And that we will use as well. And so if you step into this possibility mindset, there is more willingness to change. Your subconscious all of a sudden gets more aware of new possibilities. So be prepared for some spicy questions later on. and observe yourself, and yeah, really stay in this possibility mindset. Open your mind for new options. Then, tool 2 is visualization. The cool thing about visualization, the concept behind it, is actually really simple. Your brain does not know the difference between something that has already happened and something you're imagining. Exactly the same neurological connections. Interesting. There's loads of scientific research on this, really interesting projects. One of my favorites, for instance, is, I don't remember the university, but you can really easily Google this. So there's one group of athletes who is practicing every day to gain muscles. And then there's the second group who is using the same amount of time but doing the same exercise by visualizing it, and they get the same increase of muscles. It's really astonishing. So there are lots of experiments with this, and a lot of athletes, professional athletes, actually use visualization to increase their performances. And that's why it's a really great tool to use. And it's just a tip for you guys to use whenever you feel like you have something ahead and it will be challenging or stressy, or you have to invest something in there. By already visualizing, you kind of prepare your body and mind for the road ahead. You can already, it's like you are practicing for what is about to come. So in this concept we will use in the exercises. And the more you do that, actually, the more natural it feels for the body, and the more like, it's like you've already done it. And it really works very well. And actually, you could say slowness leads to speed, because you might say, is that not really complicated? And actually, you speed up the process later on. So it's a really efficient tool to use. Finally, the neuro-linguistic programming. I can talk like 2 days about this, which we will not do, of course. And a really simple way I use to explain NLP is giving your mind direction with words. So the neuro is in the mind part, the linguistic, of course, in the words, and programming in giving direction. Programming is to me, at least it is, it's not a really nice word. It sounds a bit like manipulation or not nice things anyway. Giving direction to me is like, it feels nicer. And so what is really important with NLP is do not underestimate the power of the conscious word. We all have been imprinted by stuff being said to us and can be really deeply programmed into our system and harm us. The good news is that you can reverse that. You cannot erase it maybe, but at least you can make new neurological connections which are stronger, and kind of, you make them that strong that they override the old neurological paths. So that's a strong mechanism. Another way, for instance, Anthony Robbins calls it self-conscious thinking for an excellent life. Beautiful, right? So NLP is really about training your brain, changing imprints, really making the mind shifts needed for change to really prepare yourself. And NLP is also, you will experience that with the whole body. We always say body and mind are one. So if you use the body and the mind together, you get a stronger experience and a richer experience, and so it will work better than just words, for instance. So let's get ready for some action. The first exercise is about reframing. Reframing is really a basic tool in NLP, and it's based on three assumptions. The first one is words have no absolute meaning. Their meaning depends on the context. For instance, last year, you guys in South Africa, at least there are some international people I know, but the people from South Africa, you had no rain or very little rain, and there was a problem. So if somebody would say then, it is raining, it has an entirely different meaning than the exact same sentence in, for instance, I don't know, Scotland, where it rains like loads, and different meaning. Same sentence, very different meaning for the people. Or a second assumption there with reframing is that everything we say is actually really subjective personal view. And for instance, same sentence, somebody can say it's raining and thinking, damn, my tennis game is off or something like that. Another person, like me for instance, I would say it's raining, great for my garden. See, so that's a personal way of experiencing the exact same sentence. All very logical. The third element is again the positive intention. We say in NLP, every behavior has a positive intention. And that's important in reframing. Because, for instance, if you're talking about your type behavior, typical type behavior, for instance, you can validate the person behind the behavior and not judge the person, because the person is not the behavior. It's just, the behavior is driven by a positive intention. It doesn't tell anything about the person. And so, actually, everything we experience, we give it a meaning, and we also instantly create there this cause-effect relationship. And so what do we do with reframing? We simply think about what else is here? How else can I look at this? In which different way? Or maybe what did I not notice before that is still also a possible view? Or what could be the positive intention behind this behavior? So I think you already know, of course, the concept of reframing, because we use it in our daily life really often in the really plain examples. And the point we're doing it really is to broaden our perception. So let's test this right now in an exercise.
Can I just ask a question first? So you said every behavior has a positive intention.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, I don't think that's true. So
Ah,
are you saying
tell me.
that that's part of what one needs to do if working in an NLP way, is to adopt the belief that every behavior has a positive intention?
That's correct. So I'm not saying that you have to believe that. So in an NLP environment, we have this series of assumptions we use. And we could also discuss this for a whole day. Because you might easily say, so give me an example of where you think that cannot possibly be true.
So rape.
Exactly. All right. The sentence actually says that rape or murder, bad things. We are moral creatures, so we immediately say, wait a minute, there's no positive intention behind that behavior. Aha. But the difference is the positive intention for the person. And that's the big difference. So we kind of separate the behavior from the person. You don't have to be okay with the effect of the behavior. Of course you don't. You cannot say, good for you, you raped somebody, you murdered someone. Of course not. We are a moral society. We do not approve of that. We don't approve of the effect of the behavior, but you could still, if you are up to it, say, okay, I'm not okay with the effect, but I can understand that somebody does that for some reason which I cannot understand, I'm not okay with, but I can get it. And I can also get that it's not a bad person. It's a human being which still deserves love and etc. etc. But you feel it's up for discussion. And but in NLP it's really important to separate the behavior from the person. And that's what we are going to test in the next exercise. Because you all know, you all have examples of things you do not really like about yourself. For instance, I could say about myself, I tend to be too perfectionist about stuff. This PowerPoint took me ages to make that, and I kept on until this morning. I kept changing. So I stop, for God's sake! It's okay. Stop doing that. A side of myself I don't like, and still I can look for positive intentions behind that behavior. And so that's an ongoing exercise going on in my life. I do to but at some point I know, okay, now it's getting dreary and stop, no more. We are going to test this with a scary thing. I hope you're okay with that. We're going, and if not, do your best. You will not die. Actually, it's not. It's meant to be less scary afterwards. Okay? But still, I'm making a joke about this, but I'm serious now because actually what we are going to do is I will quickly guide you through the whole process, that you don't have to wait what's next, how long it's still going to take. So really simple. You're going to work in groups of 3. Is that yeah, great. So if somebody from that table works with the last table, perfect. So in groups of 3, we first, you already see, we are going to work with our type core fears. And that already is, I don't know about you guys, if I see mine, I'm like, it's like something going on there. So it's a bit already, I can feel in my body, even if I've worked on this, etc., there's always stuff more to work on. So I can feel already, maybe you do too, some, what is going to happen? What are we going to do with this? So that's good, that's this creative tension, right? And that's why we also, the next step will be the securing the lessons and the ecology. I'm going to quickly make you reflect on that. We're going to do the reframe exercise. How will that work? Really simple. I will guide you through it with this slide. And you don't have to write it down because you will get all this. You can use this as a reference. So what is going to happen? So person A is choosing, you know your type, of course, so you are taking your type score fear, of course. And for instance, person A says, well, my biggest fear is being in conflict. And you can change the word. If something else sounds better to you, please do use that word. If you, I don't know, make it up, choose whatever word is best suitable for you. Then the other 2 people are going to make the reframes, and you be guided by the phrases here. So for instance, person C is telling to A, well, people who are afraid of conflict have the great ability to something. And don't overthink it, just let it come. And then person C will say, well, the advantage of being afraid of conflict is this. And then B again will take the third one, C will take the fourth one, and you go on and you help each other. If somebody is stuck, but person A doesn't say a thing, doesn't give a reaction, just is experiencing the exercise. After that, person A is going to write down the sentence which had the biggest effect, where you could really feel like, I could really feel something there. Write that down. And then stop. Don't do anything and change. So you change the roles, and so everybody gets to do the exercise. After that, we do a little personal reflection and a really short visualization. Okay? Now, the first step is stay with yourself for a moment and ask yourself if you would just work on this exercise with your type core fear, would you or anybody else could be harmed by that? If it's no, fine. If it's yes, give yourself the permission to just explore a little bit. Nothing bad is going to happen, just explore. And the second thing is, ask your subconscious to keep all the wise lessons you have learned from being afraid of the thing you're afraid of, and keep them in a safe place. You can always use them later. They're not gone. You can always reach them. Okay?
Could you repeat the first instruction again?
Yeah. So, just by doing this exercise, by reflecting on your type's core fear, would that possibly harm you? Or would anybody else in your family or friends or whatever possibly be harmed by that?
By reflecting on it.
Yeah. And maybe it's logical to you, of course not. Why would it? But sometimes it is important. And if the answer is yes, I can see that whoever might, or myself, it could harm me, give yourself the permission to just reflect, and you don't have to take any decisions, you just explore a little bit, okay? Are you ready? So go ahead, do the exercise. So probably one of those sentences was for you like the most appealing in some way. You don't have to explain why, just you could feel like, yes, I like this one. And now you looked at your fear with different ears at least. How can you do that? You heard your fear with different ears. You looked at it maybe with different eyes. And reflect for yourself the sentence that had the biggest effect on you. For what reason might that have been? Just reflect a little bit for yourself. Maybe you already know. Okay? And also, imagine that you're confronted with your fear tomorrow. What could possibly be different with the information you have now? How could it influence the way you think or feel or would act upon your fear? what could be possibly different? And maybe you could even see yourself behaving in a completely different way. Imagine that. It could be perfectly possible with the new information you have right now. The next exercise is about polarities. And we all have this ideal self-image. And also that is really a strategy to protect us from being vulnerable. And what is actually going on there, it's not that it's not true, but it's always like an exaggerated aspect of our real self. So it is there, but maybe not in the form that we see it being there. And how do you know that? That's an exaggeration. That's because when people comment on an aspect of that, we get triggered. We feel criticized. We get angry. Or other forms. And so everything which is not in line with this ideal image we have, we avoid that. Jung calls it our shadow. And so that these are aspects of ourselves which are not acceptable to us. And so we are really sensitive to confirmation, to affirmation of other people in these aspects. And for instance, myself, I did a lot of work on this, and I always got really triggered when people told me in a way that I was not creative or original. As a Ford, it's like, what? So drama. And then you know, what is this? And I worked with myself to really understand, wait a minute, I'm not creative at all. The whole other side, if I was that creative, I would have made all these paintings myself, right? I'm not an artist. There you go. That's healthier. I'm not creative, but I'm also not the greatest artist. So this balancing these polarities is a really healthy thing to do. So we are going to do this in an NLP way, and I'm inviting you to step over here in a minute, and I'm asking for, I think, 5 people to bring a chair. And we are working on, not only with our minds, on how are you also what you say you are not, and how are you also not what you say you are. And how are we going to do this? You got this, these papers, and there is one for every type. So take the one with your type, and I will quickly guide you through the process. So first of all, we will do some preparation for the exercise. We will do it over there. We will do quickly the lessons on ecology. I will guide you through a reflection and a visualization. So that's what we're about to do. So take your papers, at least the one with your type, but you can take them all. And I will guide you through the exercise over here because it's easier that you're not sitting at the table. But actually this is also a way of broadening your perception. It's as simple as that. You're showing your way, you're showing your brain new pathways, new things, new ways of seeing things. We don't have time to do the last exercise, but what I can do though is, because it's a long exercise, it takes half an hour, but what you can do is check for yourself, because you have this sheet and you have these levels of development, and you can easily do this yourself, not the whole exercise of course, but just some personal reflection. Whatever, same as before, whatever situation you're stuck in, you take this this chart, and again, you're doing this for yourself, so be honest and really check with yourself and start with the lowest levels of development in the context. Really important, it's not your whole life, in the context of this specific situation, at which level of development you're at. And be really critical, not judgmental, but critical. Don't lie to yourself, I'm meaning with that. Just be honest and really don't pick the best option. Be honest and acknowledge that in this context you might not be in the highest level of development. And what you can do next is you reflect on that, and then you go straight to the highest level of development and you read that. And there is a chance that it will not speak to you. It will be too abstract. And that is perfectly normal, because the highest level of development is kind of abstract. And it might be that it's too abstract right now in this context, or it might be that it's not suitable, concrete enough for the situation. And so you drop a level. So you go from 1, level 1 is the highest, to 2. And you will notice probably, oh yeah, this is more, this is interesting. I can see how I can be a better version of me, being inspired by that level of development. And of course there's a gap in between. And you can reflect on, okay, what is the first small step I could do to increase my level of development in this type of situation, okay? And this is a mind reflection. What I plan to do with you guys was an NLP exercise where you could really do this with your body and do a really rich visualization of that, and then you can really imagine how the behavior looks like and what you could do and see all the options, and then it's easier than only with the mind. That's why I like to do it that way. But also this is a really good exercise to do, and you can do it yourself. I really believe that we can coach ourselves and we can do a lot of work ourselves. You don't have to ask for a coach every time. It's a good thing, of course, but you can also do a lot yourself. Yes, and I'm sending you to the party tonight, to the big party, with this question: what is your personal action plan for growth? That's a big question, of course, but the first small step is, the first question really is, what is your next step? However small it is, what is the next step you can do in any of the 2 exercises, or maybe you choose the same topic for both exercises. What is the first small step you could take, and how could that look like? And you don't have to answer it now, but you can take it with you if you like and ponder on that a little bit. So I really thank you for being here, and I'll be around tonight and tomorrow or whatever. If you want to ask me what were you doing or whatever, and I can explain a little bit more, whatever you like, or just chat and connect. So again, thank you for being here, and I wish you a great evening.